danced around the truth. You smiled but I never knew. Were you just passing time, or did you feel it too? We stayed in the same place, but I watched you drift away. You said words that held me tight, but your eyes gave me no light. I try to understand all the things you never said. You said I'm here, but I never felt it. Did I imagine it instead? If you meant it, why didn't you stay? If you meant it, why didn't you fight to make it right? You left me with silence and words that cut like glass. If you meant it, why didn't you make it last? We lived in the space between, where promises are just dreams. You told me I'd be the one, but the story's left undone. I waited for you to prove that the love was something true, but it slipped through like sand, and now it's all in my hands. I try to hold on tight to the things that you would say, but I always knew deep down you'd let them fade away. If you meant it, why didn't you stay? If you meant it, why didn't you fight to make it right? You left me with silence and words that cut like glass. If you meant it, why didn't you make it last? All the I love yous you said at night, did they ever really mean anything right? I kept the pieces of what you broke, but you moved on without a word, without a hope. If you meant it, why didn't you stay? If you meant it, why didn't you fight to make it right? You left me with silence and words that cut like glass. If you meant it, why didn't you make it last? If you meant it, why didn't you make it last? We never said the words out loud, but they were hanging in the air. Late nights have smiles, almost truth. You reached for me and stopped right there. We talked in circles, careful tones, like love was something we might break. You'd say my name like it meant more, then pull away like it was late. Every look felt like a promise, every pause felt like a lie. I was reading between your silences while you were letting time decide. We spoke in almost, never yes. We lived in maybes, nothing less. You held me close, then let me go, like you were scared of what we know. If we were honest, if we were brave, if we'd said more than what we say, we might have been something real, but we spoke in almost, not how we feel. You said I care, but not enough to stay when it got hard. I memorized the way you'd leave without slamming doors or breaking hearts. I waited for a clear sign, you waited for the perfect time. We both pretended this was fine, like loving quietly was kind. I was hoping you'd say something, you were hoping I'd let go. We were standing on the edge of us, afraid to jump or say no. We spoke in almost, never yes. We lived in maybes, nothing less. You held me close, then let me go, like you were scared of what we know. If we were honest, if we were brave, if we'd said more than what we say, fading, never begun. You chose the quiet, I chose to feel. Now I'm left with what was real. If loving you was all I knew, then losing you taught me the truth. We could have been more than ghosts, but we spoke in almost. And that's what hurts the most. And that's what hurts the most. We never said goodbye, we never had to try. We just stopped speaking and almost. You said goodnight but stayed online. I watched the typing fade away. Your silence felt louder than words, like something you were scared to say. You look at me, then look away, like eye contact might tell the truth. Every pause was saying more than anything we ever knew. I learned your language in the quiet, and every breath you didn't take. I read your heart in broken timing, and every move you couldn't make. It was always between the lines, in the space where your hand met mine, in the messages you never sent, in the seconds you chose to spend. You didn't say it, but I knew all the things you felt but never proved. What mattered most was never said. It was always between the lines. You stand too close, then step aside, like distance made it easier. You'd say it's nothing, I'm just tired, but your eyes were never clear. I memorized the little signs, the way your voice would almost break. You gave me truth in fragments, in the chances you wouldn't take. I was listening to your silence, you were hiding in plain sight. We were careful with our feelings, like love was something too fragile to try. It was always between the lines, in the space where your hand met mine, in the messages you never sent, in the seconds you chose to spend. You didn't say it, but I knew all the things you felt but never proved. What mattered most was never said. It was always between the lines. It was always between the lines. If you had said it out loud, would it have scared you away? Or would it have changed everything we were too afraid to name? I held on to what you hinted, you held back what you felt. We almost met in the middle, but almost was all we had left. It was always between the lines, in the way you said goodbye, in the hope you wouldn't deny, in the tears I didn't cry. You never promised, never lied, you just let the moment slide. And I'll see it clear as time. What we were was always between the lines. We never crossed the truth out loud, we just let it fade in time. Everything we couldn't say is still written between the lines. We stayed up late, talked around the truth, like it was something we might lose. You smiled like you almost knew, but neither of us followed through. We filled the space with jokes in time, let the moment pass us by. I kept my heart in careful hands, you kept yours just out of mine. Every silence felt intentional, every pause a quiet choice. We were waiting for the other one to be the first. first to use their voice. We never asked the question, we never crossed that line. We let the answer scare us, so we left it undefined. We chose comfort over honest words and called it being kind. But the silence was the decision that ended us in time. You said this feels safe with a laugh, like safety meant we couldn't ask. What were we becoming here? Or were we just afraid of clear? I watched the seasons change outside while we stayed the same inside. Every chance we didn't take was a promise we would break. I was hoping you'd say something. You were waiting just the same. We were standing in the moment, too afraid to name the name. We never asked the question, we never crossed that line. We let the answer scare us, so we left it undefined. We chose comfort over honest words and called it being kind. But the silence was the decision that ended us in time. If I could go back to that night when your hand almost reached for mine, I'd risk the truth, I'd risk the fall, instead of losing you to nothing at all. We thought not asking kept us safe, but it was fear that sealed our fate. We never asked the question, now it echoes in my mind. Every what if still reminds me of the answer we denied. We were something, we were close, more than friends, less than most. And I'll always wonder why we let silence be the sign. We never said goodbye out loud, we just let the moment die. We never asked the question, and that's the part I can't rewind. You never lied, not really. You just stopped short of the truth. Said what was safe, what was easy, left the rest hanging loose. You tell me what I wanted, but not what you felt inside. Like honesty had limits, and we both learned how to comply. You say this feels right for now, and not like that was enough. We called it being careful, but we were just afraid of love. We were halfway honest, halfway there. Careful words, unfinished prayers. You gave me pieces, never whole, just enough to keep control. No one broke, no one confessed. We survived on what was left. We didn't lie, we just pretended that halfway honest was the best. I learned the art of not asking. You mastered saying maybe someday. We both kept the peace between us by choosing silence anyway. You'd reach for me when it was easy, pull back when it got too real. I told myself that patience was proof of what we couldn't feel. Every truth we softened, every feeling rearranged. We were experts at avoiding anything that might demand change. We were halfway honest, halfway there. Careful words, unfinished prayers. You gave me pieces, never whole, just enough to keep control. No one broke, no one confessed. We survived on what was left. We didn't lie, we just pretended that halfway honest was the best. Was like lying to me. We kept it calm, we kept it kind.